Okay.
Awesome. Let me say that again. It's an honor to be here with you today, and excited about what God has been doing through you guys. I go a lot of places. I travel the world, 5 continents. I think the last time I'd counted a 3-month period, I was back and forth to Europe like 6 times. I see a lot of ministries. Very few sit and tell me that they've had 400 or 500 young people come to Christ. So excellent, excellent. Thankful for what you guys are up to. We're getting to do just a few things around the world. Just a couple of years ago, you may, if you listen, and I hope that you will tune into 91.5, we've been able to connect 300 churches in the Atlanta area together for missions. And we fed 1 million meals in Kenya. Just got this report, okay? This is exciting. We take a million meals over to Kenya. We fill up the needs of AIDS colonies. We fill up the needs of orphanages. Just give them a whole year's worth of food. But they pick 2 villages, just 2 simple villages. And out of these 2 villages, they're dying. It's the end of these villages. And 4 times in a 1-year period, they came in and gave them 3 months worth of food. So 4 times in the year, 3 months worth of food. Someone else realized that the villages were getting on their feet, so they came in and built them a water well. So now they have clean water, clean food. Somebody else realized that now this has become a hub for the region because the people are getting healthy, so they came in and built a church. So now 2 villages that were dying have in between them a really nice church building. And this church building begins to train other pastors to go to the gospel unreached areas. And so they become a sending center. And now in that church, the community that was dying has a school, which is unheard of in that region, all because 300 churches in the Atlanta area decided to get together and send food to the other side of the world. We get to travel all over and do some amazing things. And when Tom asked me about coming down and Jeff called and said, could we be here this week? I said, well, I'll come. And they said, we want you to share with what God's doing through Waypoint in particular. How many of you are familiar with Waypoint at all? A few of you are familiar with Waypoint. Waypoint's went through a total revolution in the last 2 years, and it is now one of the only fully licensed regeneration centers in North Georgia, and is actually helping others learn that process. And as it's gone through that change, it became stable, and we're expanding on every side. What we're seeing is men get free. I told them last night as we were having church and the whole group of them were standing over here, I said, guys, I want you to think about what God has done. You that used to not even go to church are now the greeters, the ushers. I just love that. And here's a guy that 2 years ago was stealing out of his mama's wallet. Come on. And we're putting an offering basket in his hand and telling him to walk around the church with it. I mean, God can change lives. Amen? Somebody said, are you afraid they're going to steal it? I said, I'm more concerned about them than what's in that basket. And God's changing their lives. And, we're blessed to see what God's up to. Well, but here's what I said. I said, I will come, and I wanted to share briefly, but there's one thing that I want to share with you. And in order to do that, this is Rick. He's with me. He's going to bring you one of these cups. I want you to get one of these in your hands. You should have seen the looks on the face of the people at the front of the restaurant when we came in carrying our own cups, okay? They looked at me like, you can't use those here. And I was like, it's okay, all right? So I want you to get one of these solo cups. How many of you have been to a party recently and they gave you one of these red solo cups? Anybody? Some of them said, no. Some of you know where I'm going with this, right? Some of you go, oh, no, Pastor. Right? Sort of like we set them up at our church, and we had these places where you walked in and everybody gave you a marker and told you to write your name on the cup. And one of the families asked me, what's this about? And I said, well, guys, what do you do when you go to a party? And there was a young college student there, and I said, what do you do when you go to a party at school and they hand you one of these cups? She turned pale. She said, no, Pastor, I don't take it. I ask for water instead. Because here's the reality. A lot of the lives of the men at Waypoint, a lot of the lives of the women at Abba House, a lot of the lives from Jericho House to No Longer Bound and all of these, where they all started going down a spiral, they went to a party. Somebody handed them one of these cups. And they took a drink out of one of these cups. And so what we've been doing is we've been going through a program together, and Tom was there as we launched this, called Redeeming the Cup. that, you know, we had people take this and they actually filled it up, and it only takes 709 people, only 709 people to total $32,000 just by filling it up with your change. And, you know, so our church is much, much larger than that, of course, so that wasn't, you know, an unrealistic goal for us. But as we asked them to take this, and so I started studying about the cups that we drink from. Now, I want to just give these to you really fast. And let me just pray for us that God will open it to us, and anybody that's watching, that they'll catch this as well. Okay? So let's pray. Father, right now I ask you that you're going to make this clear to us. Help us begin to realize that you have a cup of promise for everyone here and everyone watching. You have a purpose, and you have a plan, and you're working for our good. In Jesus' name, amen. We are just a few weeks away from Easter. Isn't it hard to believe? Didn't we just put up the Christmas tree? And here we are at the beginning of March. We're headed toward that spiral. Well, for us it's Easter, but for the Jewish people, they're going to begin celebrating Passover. And during the Passover Seder, how many of you have ever been to a Seder? Anybody ever been to a Seder? Many of you. During the Passover Seder, if they do it in a traditional way, there are 4 cups that have to be received during that Seder. And they're called the cups of God's promises. And here's the problem. Most of us want to drink from one of those cups, and we want to get to the last cup, but we really don't drink from all the cups, and we can't walk in the fullness of what God has for us. And so these 4 cups come from the promises of God that He gives them in Exodus chapter number 6. And I just want to read to you from that just briefly, and then I'm going to give you these 4 cups, okay? Here we go. Exodus chapter number 6, He says, I am the Lord. He said, I am the one who will bring you out from your oppression. And then He said, I will deliver you from your slavery. Then He said to them, I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and mighty acts of judgment. And then He says this, you will be my people, and I will be your God. He said, then you will truly know that I've done this work inside of you. Then you're going to know that I've been at work in your life. And so here's what I want you to get today. You seasoned saints. Is it okay if I say it that way? Those of you who understand what it means to serve God. How many of you have served God more than 10 years? Can I see your hand? Okay, my assumption is adequate then. You are seasoned saints. Okay? So what are you going to have to do to really become who God's called you to be? To walk in the freedom God's called you to walk in. We are called to be the manifest children of God on this earth to reflect the glory of God. The very founder of this very organization that you're a part of here for today, he did his best to live that, to show others that God could come right into the middle of their world, right in the middle of their work situation, and to manifest God's presence. So there's a few things you're going to have to do. The very first cup God said was this. He said that you are going to have to realize I'm the God who's going to bring you out of your oppression. And the Jewish people take that cup and they drink that and they say, God, you chose us when you didn't have to. God, you looked into a people that nobody else saw and you chose us. You made us your own. And so that first cup, now I want you to, when you take these cups, I want you to think about these in your life. That first cup is the cup of sanctification. It's where we realize that God has chosen us. Now I say a word like sanctification, that's a church word. It doesn't make sense to a whole lot of folks. But let me just tell you exactly what sanctification means. It doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. Something is sanctified when it is chosen and set aside. Now can I tell you, in my home I have a sanctified cup? It is my coffee cup. If I get up in the morning and my son-in-law who's just moved in with me has taken my coffee cup, God help his little soul. Come on now. I'm like, everyone understands that cup is my cup. I chose that cup. Is it any different than the other cups? Not really. But it has my stains. Come on now. And I know where the chip is on that cup because it's the one that I chose. And here's the beauty of the cup of sanctification. Until you realize that God chose you just the way that you are, with all your chips and all your bruises and all your pains and all your struggles, you can never really begin to live in the freedom that God has for you. And so we're helping men learn this. We're helping men see this, that just because their life wasn't perfect, and just because their parents divorced, and just because they got a divorce, or just because all the little chips and bruises that came along, that God still chose them. And He didn't call them to be perfect, but He called them to be His. And when we start walking in that perfection, something begins to change in our life. Because then we can then go drink from the second cup, but not until we realize that God has chosen us and we surrender completely our lives to Him. And the second cup is when He says, all right, the first cup He says, I will deliver you out of your oppression. And the second cup He says, I'm going to deliver you from your slavery. Woo! Nobody shouting in this place? How are those different? I'll deliver you from your oppression. And then He said, I'll deliver you out of your slavery in Egypt. Now here's the difference. And this is what the Jewish people celebrate in the cup of deliverance. Not only did God choose them, but here's what happened. They had been slaves for their whole lives. 400 years of slavery. If you add that up, that means they had been slaves, their parents had been slaves, 48 years is roughly a generation. So they had been slaves, their parents had been slaves, their parents, their parents, their parents, their parents, their parents, their parents were all slaves. They didn't know anything other than being, yeah, it won't hurt you to talk with me, come on now. They didn't know anything different than being slaves. And so they get out of Egypt, and all of a sudden they realize God has chosen them, and God says, now I'm going to make you into warriors. But what do they keep saying? Well, we just want to go back to Egypt. We want to go back to our old lifestyle. And here's the problem I've seen in pastor. I've led over 75,000 people to Christ around this world, and God's done some amazing things. But here's the problem I see. A lot of people want this, but they don't know how to live in this. Because it's all they've ever known. You know, I'm like umpteenth generation of drunk Native American. That's what I am. But God set my parents free, and the curse was broken. For generations, my family were drunk sharecroppers. But God broke that and brought a cup of deliverance into my family and changed our lives. And see, here's what God's saying. He says, I'll get you out of what bonds you, and then I'm going to take it out of you. He said, I want to help you be something different. I want to help you change. And see, most of us wouldn't shout, whoa, we're saved. But then we realize there's some areas that we're still bound in. If we were at one of the locations I speak, I'd say, don't make me wait for my own amen. Come on. But we're bound. We, the children of the Most High God, need to start drinking from this cup and realize that God didn't call us to look like we used to look. He called us to be free. And the second cup, the cup of deliverance. The third cup, and this was awesome. He says, I will redeem you with my mighty outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. Now I get excited about that one because I like to redeem things. Is there anybody in this room who remembers the green stamp books? Anybody else like those? Man, I used to love doing those things. You know, as a kid, I'd always imagine I'm gonna get the radio flyer, or I'm gonna get the trampoline, and I'd go in there with my little free books, and I could get the sucker. Come on. But I liked that, and it started something in me. It started the love of redeeming things. And I've done everything from soft drink points to all different kind of point systems. I have stuff that I've gotten free from all over. I helped fly my family to Alaska by redeeming points one time. I mean, I love it. The other day, I did the biggest one ever. It took me 3 years of saving points. 3 years of walking past good sales and good deals because I had my eye on an amazing item. It was an item that apparently I wasn't dressed enough to buy. And I walked in, and I looked at them, and I said, I want to see that one. And he looked at me like, sir, you can't afford that one. And I said, that's the one I want to see. And he pulled that item down, and I said, you know what, I'll take it. And he said, oh, okay. You know, it was really condescending in his look on his face. And I said, yeah, I'm going to take this one. And I thought, you're about to be real surprised. We filled out all the paperwork, and I got the item, and we walk over to the register, and he says, sir, how would you like to pay for this? I'm assuming he's thinking I need to put it on a credit card because, you know, I can't afford it. And I looked at him, and I said, I would like to redeem it with points. And his face fell. Like, yeah, right, you're going to get this with points. And I handed him my points number, and then his face fell further as he saw the total go down to nothing. I was so excited. And you know what he said to me? Well played. Well played. And I tell you this, I have this joy. I have this hope. I have this confidence. Because I stand on this side and speak to a lot of people, and I see them come in and their life's a mess. And I realize that God's been going past a whole lot of other things to redeem them. He's been saving up their life, putting their life in the right place, and He's not going to do it without a purpose. And you know what I see? I see tears stream down their face. I see their hands go up. I see them give their life to Christ. And do you know what I say? Well played, God. Well played. And what I'm seeing at that moment, and what I'm understanding at that moment is this: that God didn't send His Son to redeem them and pay the price for them and line up their whole life for them to still live bound and them to never feel special. He redeemed them for a purpose. And if we want to walk in freedom, we're going to have to start walking on purpose. We can't just wait for the next sin to bowl us over. We've got to start serving God with all our heart, all our soul, and with all our might. I mean, it's okay to preach the simplicity of the gospel here, isn't it? Is that okay? I know I'm not supposed to be preaching today. I'm supposed to be here in, we have a college, we have school, we have a grocery store, we have a radio station, we have a missions ministry that's in 214 countries of the world. I'm supposed to be representing all that, but at heart, I'm just the kid that started preaching right over there beside the funeral home here in Cumming, Georgia. Now let me give you the last cup, and I'll wrap this up. The last cup is simple. It is the cup to where God says, I will be your God, and you will be my people. Now that one excites me every time, because there's a whole lot of religions that claim a God, but there's only one faith that God says, I claim you. You become mine. You are mine. And the last cup, the Jewish people call this cup, and we would call it the cup of praise, but the Jewish people call this last cup the cup of Hallel. Now, Hallel is the word that forms our word that we use all the time in church or even at home sometime, the word hallelujah. Do you ever use the word hallelujah? Do you know what the best time to use the word hallelujah is? Is when something's done. You finish some project, your wife says clean out the garage, and you don't want to clean out the garage, so you go out and you start cleaning out the garage, and you finally finish, and you put the last thing in place, and you step back and you say, whew, hallelujah. Or better than that, remember having teenage children around the house? I mean, I've got, my wife and our kids are grown now, and we've adopted a little boy, and so we've got now a 9-year-old, and I come by his room, and I'm like, clean your room. But ever so often, if I come by, and what I've been asking for months is done, I stand at the door and I go, hallelujah, it's finally done.